Hi, welcome to your carrier update brought to you by Powerfleet. I'm Mike Vincent. He's Zach Strickland.
I am.
It's Tuesday, right?
It's Tuesday.
It is Tuesday.
It is Tuesday.
Sweet.
And welcome to Tuesday.
I nailed it.
Yeah, we've got the outbound tender rejection index showing a little bit of hesitation and its decline this week. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're finding a floor with the freight market or where it is, because it's Easter week. Typically, we see some level of hesitation. Actually, we normally see the tender rejection rates increase as volumes dip this week, because capacity leaves the space as well as volume. So a lot of spring breaks occur this week. There's a lot of other reasons. It's not a huge impact in the overall freight market. If you look back historically, it's really hard to pick out Easter over the last couple of years, because simply the freight market has been insanity for the past bit. But if you look back in 2021 here, you see this big bump here. Well, this is right after we had this huge influx of freight demand and everything was kind of going chaotic. So we did have, this is probably one of the largest jumps in for Easter that we've seen in the tender rejection index. It jumped all the way up to 28%, the highest value of the year. Again,
it was Easter weekend.
Yeah,
wow.
It was Easter week last week, and it was the end of March last year. So this year,
yeah, it's a little later this year.
This year, you know, this was riding that wave of where things were starting to get really active and sustainably so. And this is kind of on that downswing. So we're getting a little bit of that reverse impact, but all it's doing this year is just stalling the drop a little.
Yeah, and I've mentioned that in a couple posts before. I've been looking at different holiday weekends and actually even produce season to see if the van tender rejection kind of stalls out, because you've got that uptick, but it doesn't really show an uptick. It's just a slowing of the slowing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And normally we see a little bit of a slowing over the weekend.
Yeah.
We don't see the tender volumes really change dramatically Saturday, Sunday, because the people that are tendering freight on the weekends, they don't change their behavior that much. They're not as impacted by the freight market ebbs and flows as the people Monday through Friday are. So there's a couple of things going on here. So not really a moment that you can say, okay, whew, we're about to find a floor. Wait till next week.
It's a weekend. It's a holiday weekend.
It's holiday weekend.
Chill out. Let's see how it reacts.
Yeah, 10.66% on the tender rejection index, compared to 25.8% this time last year. So we have had a huge shift.
That's 19?
Yeah.
3.37?
3.73. That was in 2020. Was 3.73, and that was that was when we were starting to bottom out. Right after we shut down the economy 2 years ago. Yeah, so 3 very different years here. I mean, talk about
seasonality at its best.
Volatility on steroids here. Let's go to the outbound tender volume index and look what demand's doing. As we see capacities not really changing that much this week, which is actually unique over the last 4 weeks. You know, we've talked about dramatic drops in tender volumes and rejections. Now, tender volumes, they are dropping. They did drop. So tender rejection rates flat, tender volumes dipping, and they continue to dip here. And this is a little bit anomalous in the way that it's taken kind of a double dip. In the way that you normally don't see a double dip. You see one of these kind of small troughs. Looking back historically, again, kind of difficult to see, but right about here in the last year's volumes, we see this little edging down. It typically happens, you know, you can see them around Martin Luther King right here, these little small troughs. And then, you know, you can
a week or so.
Sort of see the one 2020 back there at the end of April. At the very front of that green line there on the very edge of your screen here. That was Easter in 2020, but again, the market was super repressed at that point, not a long way to fall. So we do expect this to kind of trough out for the next few days. We got a 7-day moving average on it. So volume's a little bit lower. They should be recovering though, but this is kind of indicating that they're not. This is kind of indicating that they're still kind of on the decline.
Gotcha. Interesting stuff, man. What else we got going on?
Yeah, let's look at the spot rates next. Let's go to the next chart. So spot market, nothing really new here. Yeah, they're all and almost accelerating. Now I think that's probably the big takeaway from this chart, is that we've got the reefer spot rate, according to truckstop.com, really kind of starting to nosedive. We've already seen the tender rejection rates nosedive, and they're kind of, you know, we're approaching kind of that floor. We're kind of planing out a little bit on the tender rejection rates.
Total tender.
Yeah, total tender rejection rates. Spot rates for van and reefer both kind of accelerating their decline, And you can see I have fuel included in this.
Yeah, because that's bad news for OOs.
Yeah, owner-operators,
That
this
gap
is
is
not
not
good.
good.
This is margin compression right here.
Yes,
and the
it is,
flatbed,
in a major way.
yeah, the flatbed there in green also taking a little bit of a hit.
Let's see what Anthony has to say about that.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
know,
kind of foreshadowing some of his numbers or not?
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, we talked about a pull forward in the housing sector and all that. We'll see if that's actually starting to come to fruition here. But the other two modes falling is going to ease up some of that pressure for the flatbed as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Thank you so much, Zach. We'll catch up with you a little bit later on in the show. Right now, I'm going to toss it over to Kaylee next.